we in now? I mean, what stage are we in Thailand compared to the global developments in renewable energy? Are we at the beginning of this stage, or are we in the middle of this stage already?
It's a good question. I think Thailand, as a general policy, has been quite supportive of renewables. Thailand started paying, I guess we could call it an effective subsidy for renewables that came into force in about 2007. What happens is that EGAT pays an effective adder or extra amount to renewable energy producers to supply into the grid.
Right.
And that cost is passed through to consumers. That's been done since, and there's different adder rates for different types of energy. So the largest adder is paid for solar, then a smaller adder for wind, a smaller adder again for municipal waste, and then a smaller adder again for biomass. But I'll talk a little bit more about biomass soon, because I think biomass represents a real opportunity for Thailand.
Oh, okay.
So you get that in your FT charge. Now, perhaps we're in a little policy stage at the moment of uncertainty, because this policy is generated by the National Energy Policy Commission, easier the NEPC.
Right.
And the NEPC has said that there must be a cap at some point in time, or a ceiling, on the amount of cost that will be passed through to consumers. So it wants to limit the total FT charge, but it hasn't stated how much that cap should be. So at the moment, what happens is, if you want to start a renewable energy project, you submit your application, and you'll be fairly confident that the application will be processed, but not certain.
Really?
Yeah.
Is something about politics or things like that?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's politics. What happened was there were some perhaps errors of judgment in policy in about 2008. Solar got the highest adder, which was 8 Thai baht per kilowatt hour at that point in time. Now, if you think that the standard price that EGAT pays to purchase power from a power producer is, say, around 3 baht, it was paying an extra 8 baht on top of that to producers or generators who were developing through solar. Everyone rushed to solar. It was like a mini gold rush.
Oh, right.
And a whole raft of developers who had no experience in the energy industry, no financial capacity, no technical skill, decided that they could get a PPA or a power purchase agreement from either EGAT or PEA or MEA. And what happened is we ended up with this huge volume of power purchase agreements being signed, and they weren't really monitored. So from a policy perspective, NEPC had decided that the total amount of power it was looking for from solar was about 500 megawatts. And it ended up, when it did its review at the end of 2008, seeing that it signed power purchase agreements for 2,000 megawatts.
2,000?
Of solar. So,
4 times.
Correct, already. And that 500 megawatt aim was for 2020.
Oh, okay.
So it realised it had a big problem, that it was just approving these applications for solar development very quickly.
And how much or how large the solar power have actually implemented the real power
at the moment connected to the grid? Only a fraction of the original applications that were made. And in fact, that's a great source of frustration. We've met clients who are genuine developers of solar, who have technical skill and financial capacity, but until this former set of power purchase agreements effectively slides off, and EGAT can say, okay, well, now I can start renewing my capacity generation, those genuine developers will be blocked from new solar projects, which is actually which is a disappointment. It will work itself through, and I'm sure the government will have policy functioning quite effectively by the end of this year, 2013. And at that point in time, we'll see solar redeveloping as an opportunity in Thailand.
Right. And one question before we analyze the other part: why the solar power would get the most adders compared to the other source of renewable energy, like wind or biomass that you said it get the lowest one?
The reason is because the government's interested in encouraging development through solar. Solar is a magnificent resource. The sun shines.
It's free.
Every day. It's free. It doesn't cost anything.
Okay.
And there are no externalities from solar. At the end of the day, solar's not pushing off carbon or other gases when you burn,
right.
Or anything like that. I mean, solar is the cleanest and purest of energies. But if you look at electrification globally, solar at this point in time still only produces 0.02% of world capacity in terms of production.
Is that because it's the hardest one in terms of the technology or something?
Well, previously it was the most expensive, although the cost of PV cells is rapidly declining. And if we look at the computer industry and we draw some parallels as to what a computer would cost, say, 30 years ago, compared to what a computer costs now, I think if we fast forward 30 years, solar and the capacity for solar development is going to be extreme. We'll power our homes, we'll power our buildings, we'll get heat. We will use solar energy substantially in our day-to-day life, I think, if we look forward 30 years. The other thing with solar that makes it difficult is you can't capture or store it.
Right.
Once the sun shines, you need to use solar immediately. So there's no storage capacity.